What's going on, everybody? As usual, new week, new video. Happy Friday. Today I'm breaking down the San Francisco 49ers. They finished the season 13-3, and with them, it's definitely defense, defense, defense. So let's start with the pass rush. And you got the household name of Nick Bosa. Had a great rookie year, 9 sacks, a pick, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumbles recovered. And on the other end of him is D Ford. And then you have Eric Armstead, who had a breakout party with 10 sacks, got him a big time paycheck. The problem with that situation, though, is they went ahead and they traded DeForest Buckner to the Colts for a first round pick. So they got the good value of the first round pick. However, just me personally, I think he was invaluable on the inside. I probably would have chose Buckner over Eric Armstead. That's just my personal opinion. They did go ahead and replace him with Javon Kinlaw. He's another guy, great prospect, 6'4", 6'5", 319. There were rave reviews about him at the Senior Bowl, looking like a man among boys. But the knock on him is that his motor could cool, and I even heard rumors of a possible degenerative knee kind of thing. But that could be just people kind of just looking for something to talk about. They said the same thing about Miles Jack. My Jags fans should know all about that, and he's been fine. I don't have a doubt that he'll be a pretty decent player. I just don't know if he's going to be DeForest Buckner, and I think you might miss that on the inside. But they're so loaded anyway, it shouldn't even matter ultimately. So let's move on. The linebacking core definitely benefits off this front line with the pass rush and everything. So they're built a lot like the Jaguars that went to the AFC Championship game. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because the Jaguars are not a household name, but that defense carried that team to the AFC Championship game, as I previously stated. That team was also sort of built on the Seattle model of, playing the 4-3, 46 type of defense, where they're playing, cover 3, drop everybody back in coverage and get pressure with the front 4. Interior pressure with the linemen, good pass rushers on the outside. Those defenses are typically my preferred. That's just my preference. My preferred defenses to go with. As stated, San Fran has kind of followed that model. And funny enough, they have Richard Sherman on the team now. So moving on to the linebackers, they have a pretty good one in Fred Warner in the middle. Big plays. He had 3 sacks, couple picks, big interception in the Super Bowl that, in my opinion, should have ended the game if they played the end of that game right. So he has a promising future. They did pick up Quan Alexander from the Bucks. Nice, fast coverage type of linebacker, but he is injured a lot. So there's that. But behind him, they also have pretty good depth with Drake Greenlaw. He had, I think, 92 tackles, filled in pretty well for them. Their job is just basically to cover, and they play a lot of bend but don't break. And as long as they're holding their men down for just a couple seconds with that pass rush, they'll be fine. And it allows them to just run around and make plays and hit people. Weaknesses. So before I actually get into the weaknesses, right? The weaknesses, actually, let's start over. The weaknesses is in the secondary. Richard Sherman's the best of them, but the reason I consider it a weakness is because he is getting up there in age. He did get exposed a little bit in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I believe Sammy Watkins even thanked Devontae Adams on a clue on how to beat Sherman, in which he kind of beat Sherman to the inside and then cut it back out. And it was a pivotal play at the end of the Super Bowl that Sammy Watkins took advantage of. And by no means is Sammy Watkins on the level of Devontae Adams, but I think there's a book on how to beat Richard Sherman. Still a very good corner, made the Pro Bowl, but he's getting up there in age. The other side, might as well say they don't have another corner, and that's something that they need to correct. Their safeties, Jimmy Ward, they brought him back. Tart at the other safety. They're fine. You're in good hands. The only problem with them is there's a little bit of an injury problem. So as long as they're healthy, they're in good hands. The next draft or so, they might want to start looking into just addressing the defensive secondary. So now let's flip over to the offense. Kyle Shanahan is one of the greatest offensive minds in the NFL. He runs a zone blocking scheme that's similar to what Denver did. He pretty much took this method from his father. And if you guys were watching football back in the Mike Shanahan days with the Denver Broncos, you would know that it pretty much didn't matter who lined up in that backfield. They ended up getting 1,000 yards, a la Terrell Davis, Mike Anderson, excuse me. Running backs that just came out of nowhere and had good seasons due to that blocking. That scheme is predicated on, like I said, zone blocking and runners that one cut, hit the gap, and go. And they have one of the best runners in Raheem Mostert. That speed is invaluable to that kind of offense. He's one of the fastest running backs in the league, and he makes people look like he's running, that they're running in slow motion. So good running back, good running game, good blocking. Behind him, they have Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon. They're all similar in that they're pretty fast one-cut style runners. Problem, Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon always injured. So we really hope that Raheem Mostert is ready to handle those duties. But last we saw, he's kind of upset with them about a contract and demanded a trade. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. He's going to have to buckle down and do what he has to do. But even Jeff Wilson had okay games running the ball for the 49ers. Much like the Denver Broncos, it doesn't seem to matter who's running the ball for them. That scheme just seems to fit any running back that they put back there. Jimmy G, let's move on to the quarterback. He is, in my opinion, a pretty good quarterback. He did have almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 picks is a little concerning, but remember this was, I believe, his first full year starting. So I think a lot of people give him a lot of flack, but I think he deserves a little room to grow here. They did go to the Super Bowl. He did what he had to do. They did have some high-profile games where he delivered. Let's see if he can build on it before we start passing judgment. There was a lot of rumors about them bringing in Tom Brady. I mean, it's the GOAT. I don't think it should be really an indictment on Garoppolo himself, but he's not short on weapons this year. They did go ahead and draft Brandon Ayuk to go ahead and replace Emmanuel Sanders. Couple things about him. He's definitely, I believe, just behind CeeDee Lamb when it comes to yards after the catch. And you'll notice a trend among the receiving corps with this is yards after the catch. These are all basically running backs that play receiver when it comes to Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and I'm going to get to the next guy in a minute. I'm actually going to save that for last. But Brandon Ayuk, long arms, 40-inch vert, 80-inch wingspan. Should be interesting to see him line up next to Deebo Samuel. And then you got Kendrick Bourne, who seemed to have a wavelength with Jimmy G. Possession receiver. He's just one of those guys that Jimmy G seems to trust a lot. George Kittle, what else? What can I say about him that hasn't already been said? In my opinion, the best tight end in the league. When you think about the way he blocks, puts up similar numbers to Travis Kelce, and something that I feel like he does that Kelce doesn't do, which of course would be blocking, is the way he finishes runs. Like, you really have to take him down. It's just, in my opinion, the best tight end in the league. So let's move on. The offensive line, one of the best offensive lines in the league. Joe Staley did retire. They did go ahead and trade for Trent Williams to replace him on the left side, which isn't I know on his face, everybody's like, man, that's an all-pro for an all-pro, and he's even younger, and everybody's hype about that. The only concern I have is Trent Williams hasn't played football in over a year. He had the back and forth with the Redskins. He basically refused to play for them, and I think he purposely failed a physical so that he didn't have to play for them. Or, yeah, I think it was he that purposely, failed a physical. Now, don't, quote me on that. But there was an issue where he ended up not playing with the Redskins all last year. When it comes to large men and being away from, let me restate that. Large athletes, right? When it comes to large athletes, I worry about large athletes taking that kind of time off, and I wonder what kind of shape they are in when they come back after that, taking that kind of time off. So it remains to be seen. It could be a situation where it's a moot point because the scheme is just so good, and Kyle Shanahan is just such an offensive genius. It might not even ultimately matter until they get into a situation, of course, and he finds himself lined up against a Khalil Mack. So with that being said, I said I wanted to save this for last. Jalen Hurts is the guy that I think everybody should watch out for. They may have gotten Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and I also forgot to mention this, Deebo Samuel did have a foot injury, so there's a chance he could miss some games, but I think they're still in good hands at the receiver position because Jalen Hurts back. He was hurt last year. He also has an injury history, but he is literally a running back playing wide receiver. He's 6'4", 230. He actually was one of the top running back prospects coming out of high school, went to Tennessee, rushed for over 2,000 yards for the first couple seasons, and then he got hurt. I believe he got a concussion, decided he wanted to play wide receiver. They wouldn't let him do it. I think he missed a year and went and transferred over to Baylor. At Baylor, they let him play wide receiver, and he basically gave them over 1,000 total yards. 946 yards receiving and almost, I think it was 250 yards rushing. So the guy can do it all, 6'4", 230, fast. If we can, let me stop saying we because they're not my team. But if they can keep that guy on the field with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and the way that Kyle Shanahan is able to scheme those guys open to let them do what they do with the ball after the catch, that offense can be very scary. And you combine that with that defense, this is their division in my mind, hands down. Now, I will say, and this will be for another video, Russell Wilson's going to have something to say about that. I just don't feel like Russell Wilson has the strong enough roster to go ahead and do that. But of course, if the ball bounces a certain way, the Seattle Seahawks could overtake him. But as long as they're healthy, I think this is San Francisco's division, followed by Seattle. So it'll be an interesting year for the NFC West. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for taking a look at the video. If you're seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and check me out on IG, Hulk0219. If you're checking me out on IG, please go over to YouTube. There's going to be a link in the description. Click that. It'll be the Fan Smarter YouTube channel. I'd appreciate it if everybody subscribes, likes, tell me what you think, any suggestions, any questions. I'm definitely here for it, and I'm gonna be posting videos every week. And happy Friday, guys. Take it easy.